Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about the whole Codex supplements thing, because there have been some nice price leaks. We know how much they are going to cost, pretty much just about. And look, I'm not going to say that I think it's a bad idea now, because that would be a lie. I do think it's actually quite a good idea. I think it's the best way to handle the vast difference between the different Space Marine chapters. You can't ram every single chapter into one big book. It doesn't work, because you then do not have the wealth of background information and lore and personality in the different cultures, the different fighting styles. They're not well represented in the codexes. They're well represented when there are supplements, which they used to be. It's not like a new concept. I should have made that clear in the previous video. This is hardly a new idea, it's a recycled idea. And in this specific case, with Space Marines, I think it's quite a decent idea, because you will actually be able to have all the information that you should get on these chapters that are all as important as each other. Ultramarines only look more important because everything's painted that way. It is a bright, distinctive paint scheme that Games Workshop has stood by for many years. It catches the eye, and it is the most accessible thing, I think. But that doesn't make Imperial Fist less important, or Iron Hands, or Salamanders, or any of the original chapters, and it definitely doesn't mean that they are more important than, say, successor chapters. And given that every single chapter is different, they all have their own internal culture, internal practices, you can't fit it all in one. You've got to expand out, which is what they've done by reintroducing supplements. That's good. I'm not going to say that's bad, because that would be a lie. But there is something to be said for the execution of such ideas. And this has, rather quickly for me, fallen into the territory of Primaris stuff. See, I actually don't mind the Primaris stuff. I quite like the design of it. I quite like that it looks a bit more modern. I quite like some of the changes. And the overall story thing, whilst I can see why other people might have issues with it, it's not terrible for me. It could be worse. It could be a lot worse. The idea that someone is able to slightly improve, one person's work over like thousands of years is okay. It could have been better. It also could have been a lot worse. The thing is, with the Primaris stuff, the execution was never going to be great, because how do you introduce that concept without completely mangling a bunch of people's ideas and preferences for what Space Marines are? Borderline impossible. This is not the case for the Codex and supplements thing. There is an easy way to make this more palatable and to make this more approachable, and that is to try and make it so that the prices at least slightly match what you are currently paying for a Space Marines Codex. Right now, if you buy the current one, which don't do that, wait until the new one's out, that's 25 quid. Done. You're sorted. You have the Codex, you have your chapter tactics for White Scars and for Imperial Fists and for Iron Hands. You're ready to go. Ultramarines, all of it. Great, fantastic. The new system is you pay £25 and you get the Space Marines Codex, and then if you want to play Ultramarines, you spend another £17.50. If you want to do White Scars, you spend another £17.50. Which means that the total cost for you to run the army that you were running before has gone up from £25 to £42.50. That is not good execution. That's bad execution. That feels like added cost for the sake of added cost. If the core Codex was going to remain the same price, the supplements should be significantly cheaper. They should cost significantly less. They are supposed to be add-ons to the main book that reflect the individual chapters. They're not that much less expensive than buying the whole Codex. And whilst I appreciate the fact that you do get more information, more lore, more stories, more everything, the chapters have been expanded on in a good way, in a way that means you can actually properly represent them, and they have all the stuff that they could have done with having in the main book if there was space, which there isn't. You're still paying a hell of a premium for that. You're still paying a significant amount more than you were before, and don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm sitting here going, oh, well, I expected Games Workshop to just charge £25 and then supplements to be free. No, I wasn't expecting that. But if you're going to move to that sort of system whereby you are still paying for the main tome, and then you have an extra one on top, either make the main one slightly cheaper, or make the add-ons not expensive in the first place. if you have an Ultramarines army, paying $42.50 for the same force that you have now feels bad. There's no other way to get round that. It would have to be intensely impressive to be worth paying nearly double what you did before for the equivalent of just the rules again. And given how quickly this stuff is refreshed, I mean, how long is it going to be until you need to buy that a second time? Like, I get it. I'm not saying that Games Workshop should just be handing stuff out for free, because that's never going to happen. I know that, you know, the whole thing of easily accessible rules, where you just buy the models and the rules are there for free, that would be nice. That would be great. That would be a great way to get people in, because they wouldn't have to buy a bunch of books and cart them around. But there is a balance between give me everything for nothing and stop making me pay so much to use shit that I used for less last time. You know, there is a midpoint there that I feel could be achievable. I don't feel it's totally unreasonable to not want to pay nearly double what you paid before to use the same army. Codex prices have risen over the years, along with everything else that Games Workshop does. This hobby is the cost is just increasing, which, to be honest, after a while you just get used to, bad though that probably sounds. Things used to just cost less. That's how things are, especially in this plastic crack universe that we all cohabitate in. But when it comes to things like this, I can almost justify as someone who is heavily invested in, especially the modelling side of things, the increased price of stuff. Things have got more detailed. They have got more consistent. They have got easier to work with. All of that is true. All of that is true. There are still examples of older Games Workshop miniatures on their store, and you can quite clearly see a progression in sculpting skill, in like techniques of manufacture, all of that stuff. It has got better, and whilst it still does not feel good to pay 25 quid for a single monopose model, there is a little part of you that can kind of go, well, if I remember the stuff that I used to buy when I started, it did not look anything like this. It was not good to work with. It was not fun to put together. It was heavy and unwieldy, and a lot of the time when I'm thinking of picking up a model, I look at the price and I go, yeesh, Christ, that's a lot for something of that size. And then I remember trying to put together my metal Nightbringer and immediately have like minor heart palpitations. I remember trying to get the upper and lower halves of the metal Demon Prince to fit when they absolutely, in no way, physically, no matter how much you bent reality, those two bits were never going to go together in a million goddamn years, which is why the middle of my Demon Prince was green stuff that I then had to scrape away around the edges so it didn't look like he had some sort of weird tyre around his midriff. I think of those and then I go, it's a bit much, but I suppose if I go to a third-party place, if I go to like Element Games or Alchemist Workshops, it's going to be a bit cheaper and it's so much higher quality, and I'm already invested, I've already got 13 bloody dreadnoughts over there. It's like, who am I kidding? I'm in this. I know I'm in this. I can kind of bite the cost. I can kind of deal with it. But then when it comes to things like rules, especially for me, because the modelling side of thing is the bigger side of it for me. When I play to enjoy myself, and I don't give a shit about winning. I've never cared about that side of things. I'm not a competitive player in any sense of the word. If things go well, they go well, and if they go wrong, well, it's probably likely to be pretty funny when half your stuff gets wiped out by one unit of absolutely roid rage berserkers or something. I don't care. It's fine. So when it comes to things like this, like the prospect of so much more lore and background, of chapters getting the page space they deserve, and then finding out that you're paying nearly double what you paid before to use the same shit that you were using in the first place, that just reeks of trying to get more out of you. And I realise that is in itself, like, hypocritical way to look at it. Because I do buy the models, and the models are expensive. I do wince at the cost of certain units, and then I buy them anyway. I mean, I'm now on my fourth Neve Black Talon model. I mean, I grabbed one a little while ago to turn into a champion for my Emperor's Children. That's an expensive model. That's like $17.50 for that. Not counting the, parts that I've raided to turn it into a twin chainsword wielding, demonette headed, whatever that is. But I get enough out of it. I get enough out of the breaking it down, the converting, the kit bashing, that the cost is high, but I can cope. It's like, ow. But I'm going to enjoy this, so it's fine. There is, for me, a limited amount of enjoyment that comes from reading the same lore over and over again. There is a limited amount of enjoyment that comes from checking data sheets. There is a limited amount of enjoyment in paying $42.50 for information and rules that I previously paid £25 for. Now the thing is, my Dreadnought army uses Iron Hands rules, because I want them to be that a bit more durable. The idea of buying the new Codex and then buying the Iron Hand supplement, that just sucks. I don't want to do that. Like, I actually just don't want to. I would most likely, at this point, get the new Codex, because I'll need the new Codex, but just hope that there's something in there that mirrors what the Iron Hands can do, because there is no way I'm paying the extra. There's just no way. It's the right way to tackle it, but again, charge less for one. Charge less for both. Don't charge nearly double for the pair of them, because what are you actually getting for that you didn't get before? It needs to be a lot, is the answer to that. It needs to be a hell of a lot to justify the extra cost. When it comes to the models, I can kind of see the extra, to some degree. Not completely. I'm not saying it's like, oh yeah, great prices all round. That's not true. But I can at least chart the progress. I can at least see the improvement as you go along, as you look at older models that you've got. You can see that things have got better. You need to have done something pretty damn good to warrant paying essentially for a second Codex on top of your original Codex for it to be worth that. And I have no idea whether it is, but I'm really heavily leaning towards the idea that it probably isn't. Let's be totally honest. I try, for the most part, to be pretty balanced about what I talk about on this channel. I know I can sometimes be... Well, no, I think I can sometimes be quite negative and sometimes be overly positive. I get messages almost daily telling me to stop being one or the other, which to me says I'm treading a fairly decent line between the two. But there are occasional things where it's not necessarily about being negative or positive. It's about looking at what you're actually getting and going, realistically, can I even justify that? And in this specific case, no. I can't justify it. I cannot justify spending the money on a supplement as well as the Codex, because I just don't see how it could possibly be worth it, to be totally honest with you. I don't see what I'd get from it. I don't see what would make it worth almost double what you're paying before for exactly the same stuff. Just doesn't seem the right way to go about it. Anyway, that was very rambly, but that's what you've come to expect from me at this point, so it's fine. Let me know what you think of all of that stuff in the comments down below, whether you are still happy with it, whether you think it's still a good idea, whether you think the execution is poor, whether you think the pricing is well off, whether actually you don't mind, whether you think it'll be worth it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. As always, feel free to click all the things, you know what they are at this point. And as always, there's a affiliate link in the description for Element Games, which is a way to help out the channel. You're going to buy 40k stuff anyway, most likely, unless the more recent news has made you stop. And that's just a way to support the channel if you click that. So, yeah, I will see you for the next one. Toodaloo.